At the age of 22, which is exactly 10 years ago, I joined Teach for America and I quit after the first quarter. Now, on the flip side, I run a 6-figure tutoring business. Here is some background about my personal experience with Teach for America, the pros and the cons, but on the positive side, how I'm using that experience to better grow my tutoring business now. So if you don't know what Teach for America is, it is a actually controversial teaching organization that has been around currently for 36 years. So their whole premise, and oh, by the way, has 30% government funding, is they work to find college students. A lot of them don't have an education background. I actually have an education degree, and take them fresh out of college and universities, and then they'll go ahead and train them over the summer and strategically place them in underfunded classrooms. They're in rural areas, which it seems to be a little more successful there, and I've seen that in action, and they're also in urban areas, which is where I was. So it has a very altruistic mission, but it also has its challenges too, because there's so many need for teachers in America. Their goal is to pretty much get people to be teachers, put them in schools that need those teachers as well, and help out those kids. But it's, like I said, it's controversial mostly because you're taking inexperienced teachers and then putting them with the kids that actually need them most. So it's not always fully set up for success. Okay, so let's go into my personal story with this. So flashback, I graduated from UCF, or the University of Central Florida, in 2015. I was looking at Teach for America kind of early. It definitely got my interest, and I have a degree, and I was working on finishing my degree in science education. So I interviewed. It's actually kind of a long process with Teach for America, and interviewed, matched, met a lot of the team, all that stuff, and I accepted and was scheduled to go out to Indianapolis. Meanwhile, like, I grew up in Florida, I was raised in Florida, I went to college in Florida, so it was quite a change, but I was excited. It was a new change, something new and exciting, all that good stuff. But the part of Teach for America that is really unique is, and this is actually the more fun part, is they spend about 4 weeks over the summer where you are doing a ton of training. So for me, what happened is I graduated from college. I spent a little bit of time at home. I went up to Indianapolis and I actually did some apartment shopping and met the Indianapolis team with my dad. And then what happened is I temporarily moved out to Tulsa, Oklahoma. I actually had, honestly, a great experience that summer. It was actually kind of a college vibe. We all lived together in a dorm. We worked absolutely insane hours. So we had classes on top of training, on top of teaching summer school. And I was placed in a 3rd grade summer school class, which was quite interesting because my whole background is in secondary education, but the kids were sweet. And honestly, I had a great time and actually had a lot of fun during the training. That was actually the good part. We learned a lot of different kind of equity things, which is a little bit controversial. And the focus of Teach for America is a little bit on, I would honestly say, the woke side, but overall their principles were good. Their teaching methods were solid. They used very experienced teachers, and that was overall pretty successful. Now, here's where it gets not so great. So after I finished training in Tulsa, Oklahoma in that summer, I moved up to Indianapolis. I had already gone up there actually in February and got matched with the school. I had flown up there as I was finishing college. So I knew where I was going to teach. I moved into my own 1-bedroom apartment. I just kind of wanted a little bit of space. Was dating my now husband at the time too, and I knew he was going to fly up and visit me. So moved into my 7th and 8th grade science classroom, which I was trained on. And yeah, everything seemed like it was going to be actually like really good. And I had a good team, was excited about that. But what now stands in my brain is that honestly, there was literally no older teachers in the entire middle school building. If you've been around the classroom for a while, you know that is a problem. There was no good mentor teachers. My quote unquote teaching buddy, mentor teacher was only a couple years older than me. So massive red flag. The oldest people in the building were the admin, and they were like maybe late 30s, which in education, having experience is really, really helpful. And if you're a young teacher, you need someone really, really good to mentor you. So as that school year started, I did all the things that Teach for America taught with the pedagogy, all the different interactions. I try to make the learning as fun as possible, very collaborative learning. But the problem is, like, these kids were 7th and 8th grade. I was 22, and I had student taught in high school. That wasn't an issue, and I was actually a pretty strong teacher. But they have had rough experiences with their teachers from the get-go. The administration was weak and didn't prioritize our safety. So I had a unique combination. I had a bunch of kids that came from a rough home life that didn't have good relationships with teachers for a long time. And then on top of that, I had an administration that was really, really checked out. In hindsight, they were probably just really, really overwhelmed. And I didn't even have an older mentor teacher to help me out, figure out how to run my classroom, how to manage all of that stuff too. So I was just wildly unprepared. I was in tears. I was actually getting sicker and sicker with my health because of a lot of the stress. And yeah, it was honestly not working. One of my craziest days was, and honestly, some of it is blocked out, is where I had a student who pretty much tried to attack me, corner me, and then disconnected the phone line, which is a big safety thing. I was in a 2-story building, and so it's far from admin, far from the SRO or a police officer or anything like that. And these kids were a lot bigger than me. Even though they were in 7th and 8th grade, they were tall. And I know this is a recording, but I'm 5'4". I'm really small. And so yeah, at the end of that quarter, I kind of hit my breaking point. I figured out how to break my lease. Luckily, the school year had started pretty much like early in Indianapolis. I applied to a bunch of schools in Orlando, Florida. I got accepted in a science teaching position, and I moved back to the town where I went to college. I packed up my apartment with my then boyfriend, now husband at the time, and left those students at the end of that quarter. I was pretty honest with my cancellation with Teach for America. There was coaching, there was mentoring sessions, all of that. But honestly, a lot of the leaders that I was working with Teach for America were very focused on, like, that's a you problem, that's not a school problem, that's not an us problem. And so I thankfully left early, and that was actually one of the best decisions I made. I took a job at a great school in Orlando. I had a great group of kids. I actually went into a 7th grade classroom for my first year of teaching, and that was honestly really, really hard, but thankful for that experience. Although that experience ended a little bit on a negative, I could actually talk for a long time how that benefited me, but I'm going to spare you the details. And I'm going to sum it up pretty much how I'm using those lessons as I drive forward like a tutoring company with a team of over 50 teachers. One, Teach for America taught me a lot about diversity in education. That is actually something really important to me, and I have remembered and instilled those practices, even as just some of the experiences that I've learned. And I try to instill that in our pretty much our tutoring program and just with every kid I interact with. Number 2, solid teachers at an early age make a game-changing difference. I have learned the benefit of early education like no other, and now I really see it as a mom of young kids. But what I mean by that is students that come into middle school, and I had some that actually could not read, is if they are struggling at an early age, it's going to follow them likely for a very, very long time. And so early intervention always matters. Number 3 is support with one-on-one for students is critical. If students are already behind, like a lot of the students I met, like I mentioned, there were some that didn't know how to read, which was wild, is the more we are able to pour that one-on-one relationship into students and provide that support, the more we are able to change education and actually change a child's future. And then number 4 is actually a little bit of sympathy and even empathy with teachers that I interview. I am not just, I've hired over now 60 teachers, and some have moved due to their spouse's jobs. But as I sit in and interview teachers who have had struggles in the classroom, I'm not just throwing them out thinking that they're a bad teacher. I am finding out more kind of what's going on, what support they've had, and really critically thinking if they would be an effective tutor in a one-on-one environment. So that's kind of made me a little bit more on the sympathetic side and kind of have a deeper understanding. So all that being said, that is a little bit of a personal story. And if you've had experience with Teach for America and have felt similar or have had a great experience, I would love to hear more in the comments. And in general, if you are looking to grow a tutoring company, like and subscribe, and I will post more growth hacks and just how to better grow and sustain a strong tutoring company for the long run.